this time. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jared, who will do the introduction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Real quick, Pat, I love, this is how I've done the James E. West several times, is, actually, doing donations on behalf of other people, want to recognize for their contributions. And, so I love that as an option, and congratulations and thanks for what you've done. So it's my privilege to introduce my friend Rick Bragga. He is Distinguished Eagle Scout. He sits on the board for the Heart of Virginia Council. He's been a member of the Southern Region Board and National Advisory Council. And amongst the many things that he's done, he's chaired the National Scouting Museum Committee for 11 years. He's the vice chairman, vice president of the National Alumni and National Eagle Scout Association. So, Michael, I'm sure he's glad he put a plug in for the NISA, recognition there. He's a lifelong scout. He loves Philmont. There's a lot of association there with being on the ranch committee, summer staff and faculty, including, and also now his daughter has been a staffer as well, his daughter Kelsey. He is served in World and National Jamboree Scoutmasters, so he ties in with our love for international scouting with our club. Has been on National World Jamboree staffs as well. He has about all the hardware that the BSA can bestow a treasured volunteer: the silver beaver, silver antelope, silver buffalo as well. He lives in Richmond with his wife Debbie, and I got to know Rick thanks to Mark as we were working to get the American Wood Badge, Alumni Association up and running. And so turn it over to Rick, and looking forward to your presentation and our opportunity to learn from your vast experience and connections there.
Since I'm sharing screen, I'm not seeing. Are you all seeing the title slide?
Not yet. It doesn't look like you're sharing.
Well, let's let me go back and see if we can't fix that. Share screen. Okay. And now?
There. Yep.
Super. Okay. Well, let's not get the weather or the temperature there.
No, 'cause it's making some of us jealous. So
the temperature? Yeah, it was a great day in Richmond. It was spring-like. I said to my wife as we went to church, it's like Easter. So one, let me start out by saying thank you for the invitation, and also thank you to Rotary, because not only does Rotary and the Boy Scouts of America share a common set of values, but they also share history. And it's great that we talked about Paul Harris, because Paul Harris and James E. West were actually contemporaries and spent time and sometimes traveled together. And in fact, during the 100th anniversary of the BSA, we actually did an entire Rotary speech to be done before Rotaries that focused on the relationship, given that many Rotaries do sponsor or have in the past sponsored units. So it's great to be involved with an organization that shares so many things. And I've entitled this, it's What's Under the Tip of the Iceberg, because as we know with the icebergs, the part that shows is the smallest part. And most people see scouts, they see scouts in parades, they might see scouts in service projects, but they don't see what's underneath that, which includes a lot of alumni, a lot of leaders, and those kinds of things. Just as a reminder, many scouts start out like this old black and white picture here as Cub Scouts. And so starting with youth is a really important thing, but we don't want to lose them. We talked about various youth aging out or no longer being with the program. And yet there's an opportunity for all of them and all of us to stay involved and engaged in the BSA. And as we emerge from the reorganization, there will be great opportunities to reach out and to rebuild the brand of the BSA. And we tend to believe that that alumni are going to be a critical part of that. Now, this slide is one of those historical timelines, and you'll see that we go back to 2008, but actually that's inaccurate in that that was when the latest effort was started. But the BSA had efforts going back to NISA and other local camp staff associations long ago. But actually in the early 80s, 81 through 83, there was a National Alumni Association effort put forth. So it's not brand new, but this latest effort has been going on since 2008. And when you say, I'm an alumnus of a university, even that has changed. Many universities will count you as an alumnus because you have been there, attended classes, but even if you didn't matriculate, they will count you as an alumnus, and most of us know why that is. It's because they're looking for advocates and champions and donors. So the BSA definition of alumni is anyone who is positively and personally impacted by the Boy Scouts of America. That might mean someone at a church where the youth helped with various projects. It might mean someone who was the recipient of assistance from a BSA troop, but it's an extremely broad definition. And basically what we're looking for is we're looking for people who really appreciate what scouting is and what scouting does. So I'm going to give you the quick top 10 reasons why people might join a BSA Alumni Association. We're not gonna send, I hope no one's on their phone because this will be a little difficult to read. But when you look at those are all great reasons to be involved in BSA Alumni, including giving something back, providing skills and expertise that benefits scouting, telling your story, and because it's a great program. And when we think about alumni activity, what I'm going to try and do this evening in about 20 minutes or so, maybe even 15, so that we'll have some time for questions, is to give you a smattering of why we have a BSA alumni, what it is there an opportunity for you, or is it an opportunity that you can pass along to someone else? And when we talk about alumni, we talk about the 6 M's. Does anybody remember BSA when we had the 3 or 4 M's? I don't see any hands, but some time ago, we started talking about the 6 M's, and they're in order. They're a sequential process. So the first thing is we want to hear your story. It's important to listen first and speak second. So I've never met a scouter who didn't have, well, not just one story, but lots of great scouting stories, and is always thrilled to tell about their scouting experience. The second thing is that then we want to talk about the BSA and where it exists currently, because now that they've told us their story, what we might find out is that when they were a Cub Scout, they only had den mothers, or when they were a Cub Scout, they only got to do activities during the day, no overnight camping. And certainly most of them didn't have both genders involved unless they were in an exploring program. So we want to tell our story. And then making that that connection together, we focus on mentors. So if you follow up with someone and say, hey, we talked about 3 months ago, there's a big activity coming on at camp this year. Would you like to go with me to the council camporee that Mark is chairing? Or would you like to go to a mom and dad, a mom and me, or a lad and dad Cub Scout event? We'll go see the Pinewood Derby, the Rain Gutter Regatta, and the Space Derby. And then you're going to get this look like, I don't recognize 2 of those 3. So we want to work at building a relationship. And then certainly everybody knows a youth that would benefit from scouting. And that's an easy opportunity for all of us to do something that really allows us to help the youth and to help scouting. Then I almost try to put this in italics or with quotes, but because it's an M, it's manpower. We know that it's not man in that sense, but in the generic sense of human power. Maybe I'll add HU in front of that, but volunteers and adult members, and finally money. And I think we all know that the last thing we want to do with making a new relationship is ask someone for a gift. So it's important that we build a relationship. And you can see that here in this particular chart, that as the involvement goes up on the left-hand side and the memories and the time go across the other way, why at some point we get to a place where that person is educated, well-informed, and bought in and would be interested in making a gift. And we're not going to get into fundraising tonight, but of course, sometimes that starts out with a small gift or a golf tournament or a sporting clays tournament or something of that nature. We heard earlier in the warm-up about the OA. There is also, we heard about NISA, and I know these are very, very small pieces and that you probably don't recognize those logos, but both the alumni and NISA groups have what we call affiliates and affinity groups. One is career-based, so it might be lawyers or something of that nature, doctors, airplane pilots, any number of those kinds of things. The other group would be affiliates, so that would be Masonic Scouters, Scouters in Rotary, those kinds of things. Because it's going to be a little one-sided until we get to the Q&A, but because this is a little different format, but I'm sure that some of you have had an instance where you got involved in something because Mark mentioned that he was highly involved in Wood Badge. And so his experience, if that's all that was his experience, or if that was his greatest experience in scouting, the best way to recruit Mark would be to talk about Wood Badge and really say, hey, we're going to get together a group of Wood Badgers, and none of us get to go anymore because we've already been a course director or we've done this or that, and we really miss that fellowship of Wood Badge. So we have affiliate and affinity groups. And if you want to go to the BSA alumni site, which is bsalumni.org, you'll see a number of those groups listed. We do all we can to provide resources for folks, whether it's alumni or NISA, how to start an organization. And I will say this because it's important, that alumni activity, if you change the names and you change the setting, this is the same for Rotary, it's the same for church groups, any number of groups. So this might be valuable material, not only for you to look at where do you fit in scouting, but also for other things that you're doing in the community. Craig, I know somebody mentioned that they were working on Eagle scholarships. Oh, Bruce, Was it you, Bruce?
Yeah, it was. I'm about halfway through, and I had to interrupt for joining your group, Rick, tonight, but couldn't pass up listening to one of your presentations.
Well, thank you. Bruce spent a week with me at Philmont and a number of other folks, and we're going to talk about that week as we wrap up. But things that can happen is scholarships. So the BSA and NISA together have two types of scholarships. You'll see that there are academic scholarships and merit scholarships. And obviously, some of them are very substantial in the $40,000 and $50,000 range. This is a little bit of an old chart, but it'll give you some sense of the kinds of monies that historically NISA has been getting out in the case of scholarships. And it's not quite as much as it used to be because of the financial reorganization, but the NISA committee is working hard to get those numbers back up again as we emerge from reorganization. And at this
Rick,
point,
it's still above $500,000 this last year.
thank you, Bruce. That's great. It's important that we do these outreach kinds of things. And one of the ways that we do that is through recognition. And this is just a brief listing of some of the awards and recognition that the BSA has. And you indeed might know someone who would qualify. So I'm gonna breeze through these a little bit because they're interesting, but I wanna pique your interest, if you will. And so, Alumnus of the Year awards, council, territories, and national, and these are comparable to Beaver, Antelope, and Buffalo, except that they only focus on alumni activity. So they're not a good person of the year award. They're not a fundraising award. They're not I've got every other award and I need to have that one too. So it really is an alumni